Thanks for joining me today, Zeina.
Thank you, Carly. It's good to be here.
It's good to be back in the office together one day.
Oh my gosh, without a mask, it's good to see your face.
Absolutely. So you've been at this game of marketing automation for a long time, a lot of years. We're seeing people come out of college and interested in marketing automation. Yeah. What advice would you give to people who are in college or just coming out of college and who are interested in marketing automation?
Wow, no, it's a great question. It's a very specific industry, and it isn't something you just go to school for and come out with a certification in Marketo. So really there's a desire to want to work in the MarTech space that I think once it's recognized, it is that passion that I tell the college grads that if they have the interest and the drive to learn, and they're willing to get their hands dirty, and they're willing to think outside of that box, they're going to go very far in this business. And so I was talking to a college grad the other day, and his example was, I've learned about all of these new platforms, but I don't know what to do with it. And so my suggestion to him was, go back and take a look at different trainings, different opportunities in the job market of what it would mean to be in this business. And he is pursuing a career in marketing automation. And that is the result of him really drilling down and feeling passionate about what he's looking at. And so without that passion, I think you're dead in the water, but making sure you're interested, that's going to keep you going.
Yeah, I agree. When you think about when we look at just sort of interested candidates, we're looking for some capacity for technology, right? They have the will to understand it, the interest to dive in, not be afraid to figure something out, try out a new tool. And so probably, looking at some of the classes that they take, if they showed interest in technology and marketing, I think that's the perfect marriage to lead to marketing automation too.
Yeah.
When you first started, what would you say made the light bulb go off for you in terms of, or the spark for your passion when you first sort of stumbled across marketing automation? What made you say, wow, this is really cool and something I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was the aha moment of putting everything together in a business, that it just all came together in this technology for me. So I came from nonprofit and fundraising, and working with Marketo, it was that alignment between fundraising and marketing of the concept. So I was the communications driver in Marketo. So whatever the nonprofit needed in order to do fundraising, we were communicating that message out in alignment with what people were seeing on social media and in other channels. So it was a big aha moment for me that where there's alignment in an organization, if you can have a tool that's as powerful as the marketing automation platform like Marketo, Eloqua, HubSpot, Pardot, all of the great ones, you're really opening the doors to growth and innovation, and ultimately, ROI. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. It does. It brings departments together. It creates a basis for conversation.
Yeah.
We always talk internally about when we're trying to make decisions, or even if people are just disagreeing about something, it's like, let's go back to the data, right? Yeah. It's not that the data is the entire story, because there's always context, but let's go back to the data. And I think marketing automation is what brought a tool that provided marketers with the data to step into the conversations with sales and with the executive team.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see the platforms, when there is alignment and opportunity to grow these tools, you find that your teams really do get innovative, and life cycles, I think, are a huge win for an organization that's able to align their marketing and sales. For example, I have a few associations that I work with, and so even the concept of a life cycle is different. We're not aiming for a sale at the end of the day. We're aiming for membership. We're aiming for just a broader experience. So what does that look like in a life cycle, and who is aligning at that point? It's not a sales sales team, it may be a membership team. So when you have that alignment and when you have the opportunity to say, okay, well, what can I do that's going to help this department succeed? You are creating a journey for the customer that no matter what industry you're in, no matter what the goal is, you're driving with the most efficiency.
I love how the team has such different use cases with our different clients. And so, like you said, you know, the associations, you're putting on your association hat and you're referring to members. And, you know, in the case of government, you're talking about communication dissemination. And it's really important to understand, you know, who we're working with, who their audience is, who their internal stakeholders are. But that these platforms are able to adapt to all of those scenarios and really be helpful and drive changes. What would you say is your favorite feature?
Oh, Carly, you're gonna get me in trouble here. Okay. No, I mean features across the board, because I do dabble in a lot of marketing automation platforms. So I mean, you'll have something very specific like the chatbot feature in Marketo is new and upcoming, and it's something that it's a lot of fun to dive into to bring to the next level. But you know, what's the broader sort of interest here? I think my favorite is the target audience. It's the communication driver that is helping us get from point A to point B. And that is realized when we have a refined target audience that we can then hyper-personalized target to. So it's that one-to-many approach that we can scale up against. So I think that's for me. But honestly, what about you? I don't think I've ever asked you what your favorite feature
Well,
is.
I don't have as many systems. I don't have as broad experience across systems as you do. So I haven't been hands-on with lead lifecycle, but from what I've heard about it, is a super powerful tool. I always said Program Builder, which has turned into Program Canvas in Eloqua. I always said you could take over the world with it, because it felt like there wasn't anything that couldn't be. Whenever there was a situation where you'd say, I'm not sure if the system can do that, Program Canvas would be the answer to how to get it done. And I love when there's a piece of the system that is customizable enough that you can use it in ways that maybe the company didn't even realize who developed it, didn't realize that customers would be using it in that way. And that's what I love too about the marketing automation community, because I think it's a lot of people who like to, as you said, think outside the box, aren't afraid to try new things in the technology, and are passionate enough about it to say, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to figure out how to make this work.
Exactly right. And the canvas, I love that about Eloqua, and it is being not replicated, but it is in other platforms in its own right. So you've got sort of the Pardot Engagement Studio, and you've got even Adobe Marketo Engage, looking at different ways of making sort of that Canvas style approach to their smart campaigns and flow steps. So everyone's thinking, what's the best way to understand the logic of what we do when we think automation? And HubSpot had it pretty much with their workflows right from the start, but just that overall sense of what am I mapping here? And so it's not just a 1 or 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 like in Marketo, but it's actually a visual diagram of this bucket of people moves in this direction to receive this email, and it changes the conversation. You can talk to people at a higher level that aren't necessarily in the systems and still understand the process, the strategy, the outcomes. So I think it's a great tool.
Right. And it brings me back to our conversations that we had internally when we were creating the marketing automation platform comparison guide, because it was kind of like the super strengths of each platform. And what if, as a team, I think we all kind of felt like, what if we could take the best of every platform and mesh it together into one? But that sort of visual flow was something that, everybody sort of stood by their platform, but everybody said, yeah, I do like that visual flow. Yeah. It makes things easier.
Absolutely.
So you've worked with a lot of different clients with Definitive Results, and you have your own experiences prior to that. Tell me a story about, okay, I won't say your favorite client, because we don't want to pick favorites.
No, they're all my favorite.
Maybe a good client story that made you feel, successful or proud. Absolutely.
I mean, like I said, everyone is my favorite in their own unique, special way, and I absolutely love it. No, and it's so great to be able to join a contract and an engagement with a team that is eager to learn the system as much as you're eager to help them learn the system. So my proudest moments are really when my client says, you know what, I can do this, and why don't you just help me with X and or manage the strategy over here and think big picture, and I'll go in and actually update the program. And that's a huge win when we're at a situation where maybe a year ago we were afraid to create a smart campaign or to create an automation. So I think those are my proudest moments. I have a specific association in mind when I think of how we entered their Marketo instance in particular, and really it was the bare bones. There wasn't much training. There weren't many resources to help really funnel the Marketo maturity curve, and within 2 years we've gotten them through a learning curve so vast that every automation, every operational program from start to finish is understood by every single member of the marketing team for their own benefits, for their own uses, but everyone gets the big picture. And that might be, whenever I talk to that client, I know that they understand what's happening with their operations in order to meet the requirements of, in this case, their membership team. So that's really when my heart beams, is we did it. We gave them a reason to say they don't need us anymore. Great problem to have, but you know what? It's a win for them. It's a win for me.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and we do. It's fun to see the different stages and different angles at which clients come to us, right? Because some come and they have a team that's earlier on in their marketing automation experience, and they need more tools. They need to understand better how to. And then we have some that come to us and they're very sophisticated and they don't have enough bandwidth necessarily, or they really are hungry for additional strategic minds to brainstorm with. And some come to us when they don't have any marketing automation system, and they're just, we're using Constant Contact, we're ready for something new. But it's sort of a different, unique challenge and perspective that we get to work with them, and different levels at which we're sort of pulling them forward and seeing their successes and advancement.
Exactly, which is what I really like about this job, is that we're allowed to come in objectively and create that project plan. We're allowed to say, hey, guess what? You let us know that you needed us. We're here to show you that this can happen, and we're here to help you to get to the other side. And that might be a blessing and a curse for some people, but marketers get thrown in a lot of different directions. I mean, there's a lot of moving targets, a lot of priorities, and things can get lost. And so if we're not on top of it for them, absolutely there's a way that this ball drops and they have to put it to the side until next year because a priority is shifted. So being that extra set of resources, but that sort of guidance to help move strategy to execution, I think it's been a blessing to watch how this executes with our clients.
Yeah, I love in particular, I think that's really highlighted when we do like an audit or an assessment, where we're able to really dive in there and say, oh wow, okay, this is exactly what's going on in your instance, and if we can look 12 months ahead, here are all the things that we recommend tackling. And as you said, a lot of times it's like, well, we have these 3 other big projects, there's no way, sure, no problem, we get it, let's adjust and modify. But then to be able to go through that with them and look back and say, hey, remember when we talked about doing all this? Well, check, right? We got through all that stuff. And it's not just the system, what's happening in the system, but what's happening with the growth of the team, as you mentioned. So you have, and you and your team have lots of conversations all day, in fact, on the phone with clients. What would you say are some of the top questions, either questions asked or topics discussed, things that people are really thinking about and trying to figure out right now?
Absolutely. I think there's been more of an emphasis, and it really does depend on the platform when we think of sort of common questions, but lead routing has been a consistent issue, I think, across the board, across the platforms for clients coming to me saying, I don't know why this lead just ended up in the lap of this salesperson, or how do I get this individual into a campaign but reflected in my attribution model in a different way while already a part of this account with this user. And it can get very convoluted when you don't take a step back and really just try to map out the ideal strategy. And so many so many team members are walking into something that's already in process, something that's already built, something that may not have that full picture of, or maybe things have changed. There's sales turnover. There's different strategies for the sales team, so for goals. So being able to map and really target how someone gets from A to B, troubleshoot that and really nail that down is beneficial. A client will, I think we need to remember that when a client is concerned about lead routing, that's also impacting the bottom line. And so that is, for me, a very urgent conversation that needs to be addressed, at least in a plan of action. If not something that happens tomorrow, then it's something that needs to take place. And it can be timely to get alignment between different departments in order to identify the best routing, or it may just be a direction from the top and it's just something we're setting up in automation. But either way, it's something that if we don't tackle, it will build upon, and all of a sudden your lead scoring model, your life cycle efforts, the operational, the data hygiene, everything that you've done doesn't matter if the lead isn't ending up in the right place. Yeah. So that for me has been pretty common across.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's one of those foundational pieces, right? Building blocks. I always think of it like there are these elements that you need to have set up in a meaningful way, as well as accurately set up within the system. And without those, I think of it like when we come in and talk to somebody about attribution reporting, right? In order to execute attribution reporting, your systems need to be configured properly. Those processes need to be set: lead scoring, lead routing, your life cycle, integration, right? Data population, which means your forms need to be set up properly. It's really sort of a higher level umbrella that says everything under it also needs to be configured properly in order to move forward. And so again, to the point of different clients being at different stages of that, some have really thoroughly created their foundation, and others have recognized that at one point it was thoroughly created and now there are cracks, and others are saying, well, we're still building it and we want to make sure we do it right and intentionally. But yeah, so it is interesting, just the different key pieces there that will come up for different clients. But we know how important it is to spend the time and focus on it now, so that when you want to do the more advanced efforts, you don't have to go back and sort of rework everything that you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a question that I got from a client the other day that I honestly had to take a big step back in order to answer properly, and I still don't know if I did. How many people should be on a marketing ops team?
Well, it depends.
See, there you go. There's your answer. Okay, so I didn't get it wrong.
No, of course, all good questions.
Yes,
the answer is it depends.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. So I don't come from the marketing ops world. I came from nonprofit. I've been coming from consulting. So I came from a different angle. So when I received that question is, okay, well, what components decide how you create your marketing ops team? Where's the structure? Is it are we doing this centralized where everyone's coming to the ops team to get campaigns out the door? Or are we doing this decentralized where we're maintaining the system and then all campaign managers are coming in?
Right.
So I said it depends, but I mean, if any examples or any sort of advice you can give us?
That's one. The centralization versus decentralization. Different companies define marketing operations differently in terms of responsibility. So some include reporting, for example, and analysis, whatever they want to call it. Others have a reporting team for that. In some cases, it's purely sort of system administration. And then it's, what does your tech stack look like? Because is marketing ops overseeing 10 different marketing tools, or are they overseeing 2 or 1 marketing tool? And then how I want to say how big is the company, but it's in every regard. How many employees are there? How big is your entire marketing team that is being supported? Is marketing ops directly supporting sales and or sales ops, or are your marketing managers supporting sales? So it largely depends on responsibility and sort of quantity of the workload, right? But it is, I'm envisioning a flow chart of decision points to indicate, yes, add more, no, do you have enough people? But it is sort of a series of questions, I think, to go through in order to get to that answer.
Absolutely.
And it's like when people ask us, okay, so which marketing automation platform should we have? As if just asking that question gave us all the information we need to answer it. When in reality, it depends.
It depends.
It depends where you are. It depends what your company looks like. It depends where you are in your marketing and what you want to accomplish.
Absolutely.
But there's an answer. Yeah. It's just getting to all the different points that are relevant to making that decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.